Welcome to Week 8 of Sauk Valley Media's Pigskin Primer. I'm Sports Editor Dan Waisner alongside Assistant Sports Editor Christopher Heimerman. We're coming to you from A.C. Bowers Field in Dixon this week, side of the game of the week, the Dixon Dukes playing the Sterling Golden Warriors, the classic kind of Route 2 rivalry as we can call it. Two schools separated by 15 miles, two schools in two very different spots in terms of football this season, but it still should be an interesting game because you never know what's going to happen. Before we get to that, we'll look back at Week 7. Christopher, you were at Sterling last week. The Warriors pulled off, I don't any doubt, its biggest win of the season over the Maple Leafs in impromptu fashion.
Yeah, a signature win, signature moments. I'm not going to lie, one of the cool things about doing this video is it's kind of like a column. We get to share some of our editorials, and to be honest with you, when Sterling went to the half only up 6, I was worried for him. When they coughed the ball up on the second play of the second half and gave up a touchdown, personally, I thought Sterling was going to lose that football game. But they didn't go away. They picked themselves up off the mat, and they found a way to win that football game. In fact, Geneseo scored a touchdown that was facilitated by a couple of pass interference calls that were very popular with the crowd, by the way. That game wasn't even as close as a 24-20 game. Very impressive victory for Sterling. Now they carry it into this week. And what you said probably will be an emotional game for all parties involved.
Yeah, I mean, you look at other big games. We're in the meat of conference football season at this point. The big upset of last week, the Amboy Clippers falling to St. Bede. That sets up, Newman, they win this week against a tough Erie Prophetstown team, and they clinch at least a share of the title, and then they can go against the Clippers Week 9 and try to take the whole shebang.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a fun game to keep tabs on. Newman, Erie Prophetstown. Erie Prophetstown obviously playing with all sorts of confidence right now, especially compared to when you think about the team that we thought that they'd be coming into this season, sitting at 5-2. I mean, they're going to relish an opportunity to face the juggernaut Newman on their home field.
Well, and like Sterling, EP's looking for that 6th win. You want that 6th win because then you've clinched that playoff spot. You're playoff eligible at 5, but you got to depend on playoff points and what everybody else in the whole state's doing. You get the 6 and you can sit back. You start thinking about, well, if we get the 7, we can maybe get a home game for that first round. But you get the 6 and you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny, listening to the Geneseo broadcasters during the Sterling game last week, and we were kind of chuckling about it because once Sterling went up 14-0, basically those guys were saying, "Oh, the season's over," and a couple of us thought they were being dramatic. But that's not far off, considering what you wrote about last week, considering the point system. I mean, Geneseo is really up against it, so that was a victory they needed. Sterling got it.
Well, looking to Friday night now, the Golden Warriors are sitting at 5-2 and Dixon sitting at 0-7. The Dukes would love to kind of play spoiler for Sterling in terms of keeping in the NIB 12 West race with Ottawa, who's also undefeated at 3-0. And then Ottawa and Sterling would play in Week 9, so if both win, that'd be a huge game, but the Dukes are looking to play spoiler.
Admiral Akbar might call this a trap. In terms of after this one, Sterling gets Ottawa the next week, might catch themselves looking ahead. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Sterling is as focused as they've been all season long, and that certainly showed up in their game on Friday night. Dixon, flat out right now, is just having a hard time stopping teams. Their defense is having a hard time keeping teams out of the end zone. They hung with it a little bit last Friday night, but I see Sterling winning this one fairly handily. I see Sterling coming out and winning this game by the tune of 41-13. And honestly, I think Dixon might get some of those points late. This is a Sterling team right now that believes in itself.
The points late thing has been kind of the MO of Dixon. They've scored late, which is a good sign in the sense they're not giving up.
Yep.
They keep trying to score even if they're behind by a lot. If you're Sterling, what you're looking at, they really haven't laid a thumping on anybody this season.
It's true.
Streeter came in, they hadn't won a game, and Sterling struggled with them for a half. And LP's only got 2 wins, I think, at this point. Sterling barely got out of LP with a win. Sterling would really like to probably jump out by 24, 30 points by halftime so that they can finally get some of those subs in there, see what they got, because you just never know what you're going to need when it comes to playoff time. Somebody goes down, you might need one of those kids, and they're kind of untested at this point. But I do see it too. I see it maybe like a 35-14 game, and Sterling winning it and setting up that big game with Ottawa next week.
Should be a very entertaining night, and you just never know what you're going to get with that wounded animal. I hate to call Dixon that, but right now, I mean, they're fighting for some scraps. They're fighting for pride, and you know, when you approach a team like that, you're not sure what to expect. So Sterling has to be ready for this game no matter what.
All right. Don't forget to check out the video interviews, highlights from Friday night's game Saturday morning at SaukValley.com. Right now, we'll send it back to the boys in the office who will talk about a few of the other big games this week.
This is Ty Reynolds, Sauk Valley Media sports reporter, talking about this Friday night's game between Bureau Valley and Amboy. The key to this game is going to be which offense can assert their will against the opposing defense. Bureau Valley does a really good job running and throwing the ball. Christian Connick has over 400 yards rushing. Tyler Barnes has 1,140 total yards, with 850 of that through the air. He's accounted for 9 touchdowns, and he's a really good playmaker. On the flip side, Amboy has relied on a pair of running backs, Cooper Nelson and Spencer Johnson. They have combined for over 1,000 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. The key to stopping Amboy is slowing those guys down. Last week, in their first loss of the season, the two combined for 16 total yards rushing the ball. Took Amboy out of what they wanted to do. Therefore, St. Bede was the winner in that one. The other side of the coin is the same thing with Bureau Valley. If you can put pressure on the quarterback and keep Tyler Barnes from making plays with his arm or feet, you're going to have a good chance of slowing Bureau Valley down. That's what it comes down to. I believe that Amboy does have the defensive line and linebacking core to put some pressure on Barnes and put him under pressure, make sure that he doesn't throw the ball or make a lot of plays with his arms or legs. I believe the final score on Friday night will be Amboy 35, Bureau Valley 21.
This is Brian Weidman. I am a reporter for Sauk Valley Media in Sterling, and I will be looking at the Newman against Erie Prophetstown football game Friday night in Erie. The Comets are 7-0. They've been looking great all season. Outscored their opponents 239-49. But they have 2 of their toughest games remaining in weeks 8 and 9 against Erie Prophetstown this week, and then Amboy next week. Like I said, the Comets have looked good all year. They just need to continue how they've been playing, and then they should be all ready for the playoffs. Erie Prophetstown's 5-2, their best season in quite a while. They're looking for their first playoff berth since 2002. They last beat Newman in 2003. The Erie Prophetstown needs another win to get in the playoffs. They need to either beat Newman this week or Peru St. Bede next week. Both of those will be tough tasks, but their best chance is probably in week 9 against St. Bede. I am predicting a 28-14 victory for Newman this week.
This is Sauk Valley Media sports reporter Larry Brennan taking a look at the annual Wooden Shoe Bowl between Morrison and Fulton. Basically, this is a must-win game for Fulton to have any playoff hopes. They come in 3-4. The defending state champion, Class 2A defending state champion, Morrison Mustangs, struggling a bit this season, coming in at 4-3. Fulton is averaging just short of 23 points a game this year. They're giving up just over 23 points a game. Morrison averaging 19 points a game and is holding opponents to a little less than 13 points a game. Fulton is led offensively by fullback Austin Regenweather. He's among the leading rushers in the Sauk Valley with 663 yards to this point. Quarterback Ethan Jones for the Steamers. Bit of a dual threat. He has 347 yards rushing with 10 touchdowns. And he has 328 yards passing with 4 more touchdowns. Morrison has been led offensively by Danny Willis. Also among the leading rushers in the area with 550 yards rushing with 8 touchdowns. He's also got 251 yards receiving with a couple more touchdowns. Brock Dieter has 341 yards rushing on the season for Morrison. Andrew Conley has had replaced Dieter last week. I believe Dieter is injured, or was at least last week. Andrew Conley ended up with 119 yards last week against Riverdale in their victory. And then Alex Volkman is also pitching in the running game with 324 yards rushing. Morrison quarterback Matt Wilkins has 520 yards passing on the season. This figures to be quite a bit more competitive Wooden Shoe Bowl than there's been in recent years. Fulton has not won the Wooden Shoe Bowl since 2003, and every game since then, none of them have been close. None of them have been closer than 20-point spread. This year, I am going to take Morrison to win another Wooden Shoe Bowl. I believe it's going to be a lot more competitive game than it has been in recent years. I'll take Morrison to win that game 26-20.